to me, one of the best things that we can say, whether we're designers or sole proprietors or project managers or whatever position we're in, when we're dealing with either somebody else in our firm or a client and they say something that is this feeling of this source of rejection, is just say, okay. Welcome to the ArchiSpeak podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some ArchiSpeak.
I died in South Africa, of the outline, my body in Tiffany's blue. When I died, I drove right in and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank. And you.
Welcome to episode 55 of the ArchiSpeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And this show is sponsored by ArchCat and a new sponsor we welcomed this week, ArchiSnapper. We will talk more about them later in the show. First up, we have some friends of the show to announce.
This week we have 3 friends of the show. The first one is Apollo Spilotis, who donated $5. And Apollo is at AC Monkey, which stands for ArchiCAD Monkey, I believe, on Twitter. And Apollo, thank you very much for donating to the show. The next friend of the show is Jonathan McConnell, who is a fourth-year architecture student at Southern Polytechnic State University, which is near Atlanta, where the AIA convention is this year. And he has listened to every episode through number 50 so far.
Wow.
That's perseverance.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And so he really appreciates the perspective we give to students. So thank you, Jonathan, for that kind remark. We appreciate it. So thanks for being a friend of the show as well. And then the last new friend of the show, Trudy Winters, who donated $10, and she lives in, it says Oakley, California.
That's correct, Oakley.
And I think you know this person, Neil.
I do. Trudy and I used to work, or she still works there, but we used to work at the same firm. Back when she was an intern, and I worked there, and she's also the secretary for the East Bay chapter of the Cal Poly Alumni Association. So we went to the same college, different times, but so we thank her. She's also actually listening to the show. I don't think she's quite as far as Jonathan, but she's working her way through all of our back episodes as well. So what a trooper.
Yeah. So thanks, Trudy, for becoming a friend of the show. We appreciate it. And so that's it for our new friends of the show. If you would like to become a friend of the show and get your name read on the ArchiSpeak podcast, you can do so at archispeakpodcast.com/donate. Thanks, everybody, for being friends of the show.
So up this week, Cormac, you've been rejected.
Again,
No, you
and
have.
again,
and again.
and again.
Yeah, that's funny.
We all have, right?
Actually, I follow this pretty interesting blog. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. It's Evan Troxel. And
That guy?
Troxel. I don't know what his name is. But no, actually, back in January, Evan wrote a pretty good blog post about rejection. And it was more geared towards the critique in school and how basically you can build upon rejection, how it can improve you and everything else. And I was thinking about this because we recently were going after a couple of projects and we were shortlisted. We were among the 4 that went in and gave a presentation. And though we had good presentations, we had everything that was, good, tight, everything, a presentation, blog,
we had
whatever.
Good everything.
I don't know what the hell I'm just getting. Well,
Good everything.
but not enough. But what I was getting at is, it was good, but it wasn't good enough because we didn't get the job. And so I
but you
started
can't
thinking
win
about,
them all.
Exactly. But I started thinking about it, after, reading your blog post, that there's a lot of rejection that goes on from, not only early on when we're in school doing these crits, but all the way through. And it's a way to stop and kind of reflect on the job that you're doing and what you can do to improve and what you can do to go out and get the next job. So I kind of wanted to talk about all of the different levels of rejection.
Okay, so...
And not the ones that Neil had throughout his life.
Yeah. So the article was called Rejection is Good for You, and we'll have a link to it in the show notes. And you can get the show notes at archispeakpodcast.com, and on the right-hand side of just about any page, you can sign up to get the show notes delivered to your email box so that you can follow along as you listen to the show. On the website, we also have the show notes there, so you can get the link there. But I think one of the interesting things about rejection, especially, if you're going for projects, is that, a lot of times they're trying to decide between 3 firms, 5 firms, 2 firms. I mean, there's always typically more than one, right? And a lot of times it just, and I linked to an article in my blog post that talks about rejection from a writer's standpoint. And that was one of the articles that was kind of the inception for this one. But one of the things that the author of that article said was that a lot of times rejection is just saying that it doesn't fit here right now. Maybe it used to, maybe it would, but right now, no. And so a lot of times it's just wrong place, wrong time. A lot of times it's, I've gone for work as well where we really wanted the job, but the architect that the client ended up choosing, it was like obvious. Yeah. I mean, after I've been through this, I went back and looked up the other architect that they had picked. And a lot of times you look at that and you think, okay, that makes a lot of sense, right? After you've met with them and you've talked and you kind of realize that sometimes the type of work you do or the people that you put in front of them are not what they need at that time.
Right. Well, I mean, let me give you this example. And anybody who's listening has listened to the show from episode 1 through at least episode 50 knows that
binging.
I rarely talk about like the firm I'm at now. I usually use past examples, but in this particular case, I'm going to use real-time example of this example of rejection. So we were going after a high school, and they've already gone and done a feasibility study. In reviewing the feasibility study, it was clear that there's a lot of things that, and I don't want to sound overly critical of the particular architect who did it, but it was clear that there were some things that were missed. That when you walk the site and you see the things, you're like, oh well, why did they do this when there's this elevation change and everything else. So I don't want to get into the specifics of that. So we came up with what we felt like was a really good response to their program, phasing, construction schedule, construction budget, the whole, everything. And of course, everybody who's going in there should feel great about the presentation that they're going to be bringing. And we did. And from everything that I understood, because I wasn't in the presentation was great. And what it came down to, later on, we found out that it was basically we missed it because our fees were too high. That they really liked our presentation. They really liked what we were going to bring to the project. But it was all fee. It ended up being something based off of fees. It really kind of like hit us. We're like, well, wow, this is, how can we go any cheaper? Because, we're trying to win a project. So we're trying to come up with the leanest fees that we could possibly do without basically doing the project for no
race to the bottom,
no profit at all. Exactly.
99 cents. Right. In-app purchases. There you go.
But what that does, though, is that kind of lets us take a step back and think about, okay, well, are these the projects that are worth going after if we know that there are other firms out there that can afford to go cheaper
Who says they can
you know.
afford it?
Well,
A lot of people will work for anything just so that they can say they're working, or it's just so that they can be working, right? But they probably aren't making any money off of that. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times we wonder, was this a blessing to not get this job?
well, I mean, just like what you were saying, I mean, this was a project that I was just,
You really wanted it.
I was begging for
Right.
it. I was like, this is a project that I've got to have. I mean, it was another historic project that had a really large component of addition as well as renovation of the existing historic buildings. And, we just had this, I mean, I kind of felt it just, to me, it just felt like it was the right response to the program. And so I was just like, oh, we've got this. And we had great graphics to explain exactly what we were doing. It was just this, something that we had never done before in the way that we did the presentation. So, I mean, we really put ourselves out there. And so we were very invested in it. And we were rejected. It hurt. It hurt. It was... And so the way to deal with it is to come back and kind of assess and evaluate. Well, was it just about the presentation? Was it about the fees? I mean, what can we do better? What can we do to basically knock their socks off the next time around?
Did you get any feedback from them? Did you get any kind of a download?
We haven't. We've asked for it.
Well, the reason I ask is because, I think a lot of times students or people in other fields don't go out and seek the reasons why you weren't chosen for something. And so I wanted to kind of point out that it's extremely helpful, and we seek it out all the time. If we, whether we win it or lose it, I mean, we're always looking for feedback.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that is a little bit more unique about the architectural profession than most other professions. And so you'll see that working in offices is you'll get downloads from people who were in the interviews, and maybe they'll even bring up comparisons about your firm versus the other firm, what they liked, what they didn't like, what seemed to resonate with the group and what didn't, what were turn-ons, what were turn-offs. All that stuff is really great insight. And again, I think this kind of gets back to the basis of my blog post, which was the reason that rejection is good for you is because it helps get to the root of the issue and what can make it better the next time. It really is not about you. Now, sometimes it could be. It could be about a personality in the room and how they don't feel like it's going to fit with the team that they've got, or, in this client relationship. I mean, there's other types of rejection out there that we could talk about, but most of the time it's about the process, or it's about the project, or it's about the deliverable. It's about the actual thing, and not about your ego and not about your feelings.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think your article was really good about this, that we're predisposed to basically asking, what did we do wrong? Why don't you love me? It's no, but I mean, in school, we're always going through critiques of all of these projects. And I don't know about your schools, but our schools, we basically did like an after-action review of what we could have done better, what we did really good, what was our strengths, what was our weaknesses in the presentation, so that the next time we give a presentation or the next time we present that particular project, we can do better. We can increase the information, that we're trying to sell to them, and just really kind of push it home. And that's something that we've always been doing. So, you're right. I mean, even once we're well beyond school and we're giving a presentation to a client for a new project, and we don't get it, or even if we do get it, it really is important to ask, what did you do good? What did you do bad? What is it that you can improve on? If it's clients that you have a good relationship with, that you're going to be continuing to work with them. I mean, Evan, you and I are in firms that ours is built off of repeat business.
Sure. Yeah.
And so if we just go into a presentation and we just blow it, and they're like, well, maybe these guys aren't really cut out to be working for such and such school district or whatever. Well, those are things that you want to know, but so that you can improve on.
You guys are both coming from the perspective of larger firms. You're making presentations to boards. There's a group of people making a decision. And in that case, you're probably right.
Multiple groups.
Or multiple groups, yeah. In those cases, it's very likely not personal. But in my case, being a sole proprietor, it can be an advantage or a disadvantage.
I see that in in-house stuff too
client,
in ours. Yeah. So
Okay.
so just to agree with you, I totally see that side of it as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to point that side out because oftentimes, in fact, I had a potential client, call me this afternoon. Actually, the day we're recording this.
What did they call you?
And what's that?
What'd they call you?
I said, what did they call you?
Oh, smart ass. Now you threw me off. Anyway, I was called this afternoon, and just I kind of briefly went through the steps or the process that I would start with them. And the feedback I got was, I like that approach. And so it's very much a personal thing when it comes to somebody calling me and talking to me, or me going out and to meet somebody for the very first time. It's critical that they like me, so to speak. I mean, they have to feel comfortable because they're hiring me. They're not hiring a firm with a big name or no name or something. They are literally hiring me. And so if I don't come off as personable or somebody who sounds like they know what they're doing, they've been through this before, that's somebody that can guide them through the process that they have never done, it doesn't, I'm not going to get that job if they don't like me. And so even if they do like me, sometimes they may like somebody else better and I may get rejected. I mean, that happens. And so one of the things I try and do whenever a potential client calls me and talks to me about potentially meeting with them, I always try and ask, or always trying to remember to ask, how did they find out about me? And then the second part of that is, and this goes to the rejection part, if I'm not chosen for a job, I ask them, why didn't they choose me? That is, at least if they ever respond. I mean, there's many times clients, when you're dealing with smaller projects with remodels, additions, you just sometimes won't ever hear from them. It's very frustrating that they just disappear. And so if a client is actually nice enough to, or a potential client is nice enough to actually respond to you, you can find out. And that goes to what you were saying, Evan, is that you can then build that. Okay, was it a fee issue? Was it something I wasn't going to do for them? In one case, I can think of the person had a friend or a colleague that had used somebody else, and they were very happy with that person. And so it was like, okay, well, this is a known quantity. You are an unknown quantity, and I'm going to go with the known quantity, nothing personal. So that happens too. And that's another form of rejection, but one that, in my case, I need to be liked in order to get the job. So that's a different perspective on what the types of projects you guys are trying to get at the firms you work at.
Regardless of if it's the, smaller project and, it's the one-on-one interaction, or, the larger clients with multiple, peoples and faces that we've got to impress. I mean, there's still the one root issue that needs to come out of this that I think both of you guys have, spoken to, is even though we put so much of ourselves into it, and it really is hard to not take it personally, you really shouldn't take it personally, because it really is business. You hear this, well, it's not you, it's just business. Well, it really is.
Yeah. Sometimes. Another rejection I'd like to bring up is architects rejecting clients or potential clients.
That's what I was going to go with next is what if flip that around, the story you just did, right?
Exactly. And I've had instances where I've gone out to meet somebody or talk to somebody over the phone, and it's like, I really hope this person doesn't call me back.
Well,
Or I don't return the call.
that's what that first meeting is really good
you know.
for, right? It's you're interviewing
yeah.
them as much as they're interviewing you.
Ask questions. Yes, absolutely.
And it's great to just refer them to somebody else who you think is a good person, but you think might fit better.
Or yes, and that's actually for those other sole proprietors out there, that can be a very difficult thing because sometimes you may get busy and you may not be able to help somebody at a particular time. But if that client or potential client is somebody that you're not too sure about, that you have an uncomfortable feeling about them for many different reasons or potential reasons, then you're kind of stuck a little bit, because if you do want to be helpful, you'd like to refer them to somebody else. But if you're not feeling very comfortable, it's like, oh, who of my friends that I could recommend you to do I want to sick you on?
Well, but you don't really have a responsibility to have to refer them to somebody, especially if it's somebody that you just don't feel comfortable with. Why would you,
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
Right.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't refer them on. Just say that I'm sorry, I can't help you right now. I'm not sure how you take that, but you try not to put yourself into a position of being somebody who has to recommend somebody else that could help them.
It's really hard, though, especially in the more current climates, coming off of this big recession that hit our profession pretty hard, for people to reject a client. And, we're like, well, you need the job. I'm going to go ahead and take this. I don't really feel comfortable with them, but I would feel more comfortable if I have work. And that can just be, a toxic lose right there, because you're going to be working for somebody that, you're just not going to get along with. And then ultimately, not only do you and the client suffer, but so does the project. So you're turning out something that's probably substandard to what you really want to do, just because you want to get the project done and get them out of your hair. So, those are definitely times when you should reject the client and walk away.
Very true. Sometimes, though, it's worth taking them because you never know how it's going to turn out. I took a project late last year for a contractor, and it was just a simple remodel addition, and it's gone well. But at first I wasn't too sure about it, and it's actually turned out really well. I ended up actually working for the owner, not the contractor, even though initially my contract was with the contractor. And actually that was a very interesting situation because all my interaction was happening through the owner and not the contractor. And I contacted them and said, this is not going to work this way. So you are technically not my client, and I'm taking all of my direction from you. So I'm going to cancel this other contract, and I'm going to rewrite it, put your name on it, and you will now be my client. And that actually worked out really well. Project ended up going good, and it's been a win-win.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah. So I think we have a time for a sponsor now.
Yeah, let's talk about RCAT, a repeat sponsor, and RCAT is awesome. For those of you who haven't heard of RCAT, would you like someone to draw CAD details for you, create BIM objects for you, write specifications for you, and would you like this someone to do it for free?
Yes.
RCAT has already done all of this. Search the RCAT libraries for these products and more free of charge at no registration required to download content. So you can get DWGs, PDFs, Revit, BIM, families, all kinds of stuff off of their website for free. RCAT has created a website devoted to you, the building professional, to find building product information fast and hassle-free. So check out RCAT today at arcat.com. So thanks, RCAT, for sponsoring the ArcaSpeak podcast yet again. You guys are awesome.
Yes, thank you.
And one thing that we never really mentioned in the reading of our RCAT sponsor, they have an app for the phone that for iPhone, and I'm sure it's for Android as well. But it it's a a smaller version of their website, but basically you can go in and you can do a product search, a building product search, look up BIM libraries, spec libraries, and all that other stuff. And the other day I was sitting out on a project and we were talking about adding a new card reader to this one particular door in a school that we're doing, and it needed to be a slimline card reader. And so all I basically did was pull up the little app, started looking up, and I found one, and it just so happened to be the one that the school uses as their basis of design. So I pretty much had everything done right there off of the Arcat mobile app.
That sounds like it would be expensive.
I believe it's free.
Of course.
Awesome.
So let's jump back into the conversation here. What do you do when you get rejected? There's two ways to take it, right? There's to get butthurt and walk away and mope and cry about it, but obviously I'm not leaning towards that answer. The right thing to do about it is so there's many varying levels of rejection, right? There's like very, very small to very large levels of rejection. But so let's just say that you're feeling like your client really hates everything that you've done so far, or you're in that interview and you don't win it. So something that I've found to be helpful in that situation is to step back, have that out of body experience, look at the situation and say, okay, now I understand that this is how it's going to be. How can I make the best out of this? Because I feel like so many people take the opposite course of action, right? They do take it personally. They go into a funk. They disappear. They go into under the radar mode, and all of a sudden it's like, where's this person? I can't even. They're never at their desk anymore. They're not available by phone. They're not available by email, because they're so hurt, right? But then there's the other way to handle the situation, which is to say, okay, now I get it. I'm going to deal with it based on what you just told me, and I'm going to change my attitude, and I'm going to take it in a completely new direction based on what you said. And I feel like that moving something forward in the positive is going to put value in the situation where that person potentially saw that there was no value to be had by going with you. I mean, do you guys have any experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen, in fact, I worked for a firm some time ago where when we were going after a big project and, again, we put our heart and soul into it. And it was something that I guess we probably put too much stock in. This is what we have to have this project. Because they had already, it's going to be sound. They already started spending the money that they didn't have. So they went, we spent so much money to go after the project that when we didn't get the project, it was a huge blow. And I saw partners that normally are kind of like the rock of the firm, basically just kind of wither,
kind of crushed,
and disappear for a while. And they were crushed. I mean, we brought on new people and stuff, and so it kind of took them by surprise that what we felt was a shoe-in wasn't, and they were like, "Oh no, now what do we do?" And
it's yours to win or yours to lose, right?
Right. And it was bad, and I'd never seen that before, and it was interesting to. I was an intern then, and I was going to be going back to school. So though I was invested in the firm while I was working there, I knew that it didn't matter one way or the other to me because I was going back to school. But it was something that was just kind of eye-opening as a way to deal with or treat that your rejection. So it was shocking.
Yeah.
To see grown men basically shriek and wither.
I think in architecture where I see this probably hit the hardest is when you're putting an idea out there where you are first, risking rejection, right? You're being vulnerable. Maybe you've come up with, let's just say it's a design, right? And they're like, that's not what I was thinking at all. I wanted English tutor. And you've shown them some modern thing. And like that's 180 degrees the other direction than what you were thinking. And so I think this is kind of an example of what I was talking about a minute ago, where it's like that can be a crushing blow where it is like, I am definitely not the person for you. Or it could be, I'm going to do the best damn English tutor you've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
I'm still going to do it well. I'm going to do it really well. Even though it's not me, it's not my signature, I can figure out a way to put my signature into something that is perfect for you, because it is their money, right? It's their vision as much as it is your pen to paper.
Well, I've had that exact example happen to me. I was working on a project several years back on my own, and my client was he was doing this with his parents. So his parents were really the money behind this. But he was the one that was dealing with me and kind of directing me, kind of managing the project, if you will. And so every direction he gave to me was for a certain type of structure that he wanted. And everything he said, and I went through several meetings with him, showing him photos and examples and just all this stuff. And we get to this meeting with his parents, and I'm showing this stuff, and I've got these 3D renderings up, and just what I thought was going to be what they wanted. And it was 180 degrees different from what they wanted. And they handled it actually very nicely in that they apologized actually to me that I was given incorrect direction. I did a good job at what I was given with, but it wasn't the direction. And so, fortunately, they kept me on the project, and we did exactly what you said, Evan. We went back to the drawing board with new direction and gave them the best damn, structure that they wanted in the direction that they wanted to go. And that project ended up working out great, and it turned out fantastic. But it was definitely a course correction, and I experience those course corrections all the time. And these are kind of the small rejections, if you will. And what I'm kind of getting to is, even during client presentations, you may get small rejections because you're putting out designs and concepts, and this is what, based on hopefully feedback that they've given you. And this can go to students too. You're getting feedback all the way, during the quarter or semester from whoever your client is, whether it's your professor or somebody else. You think you're going in the right direction, but then maybe during that review, or in my case, client meetings, they're like, no, we wanted to go this way. We don't like this, or we do like that. But you're putting yourself out there, and how do you handle those small rejections during the client meeting? I had an experience actually just tonight in a client meeting where they're like, well, what about doing this? And I'm like, well, you've never talked about that, but yeah, let's go there.
Great idea.
And great idea. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, yeah, let's look at that. Let's explore that. And here's the implications, to the budget, the schedule, other things like that. You bring those things up. But you put it out there, and and you kind of work through these course directions during the meeting. And it's kind of, that's kind of the fun part of doing what we do. And on my smaller scale of things, even like on the client I'm talking about tonight, they were saying, well, what if we did this? And so it's, you almost like, my first reaction was, oh, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. Don't make me do that. And so it was like, okay, how do I think on my feet and kind of course correct them through, this process, so that we can come up to a solution that's a good solution and not maybe something that, is bad. And so you have to, work quickly to maybe even sketch something out but explain maybe why something is not good. So you're navigating this minefield of rejections during the entire client meeting. And that hopefully when you finish at the end, you've got a good design or something that they're happy with and that you feel is going to be good, architecturally speaking.
Kind of glad you brought that up because, we've been kind of talking big picture rejection, and there is the small, you were calling them rejections and course corrections and stuff like that we deal with on a daily basis, whether it's in school and we're, giving a presentation and a professor says, well, have you thought about doing this? And you've been spending a week or 2 weeks of just nonstop developing this thing, and you've taken it to heart and it's your baby, and someone says, no, that's great, but what about this? And, you do it in the profession too, when you're looking at a design and you got the client who's like, well, I was really thinking about this, and, it's just all how you roll with it, how you deal with it. It isn't really anything personal. Remember, we're building things and designing things for other people.
Yeah.
So, we really got to kind of absorb what they're talking about and, kind of work with it. So it's not really necessarily rejection. It's more of a taking it and making it better, making it work for both you and them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It is a natural part of the process, and it is part of the give and take. It's part of the us, right? It because it isn't just one person's vision.
Right. But doesn't it feel like sometimes when you're really working hard at something and somebody comes in and they just offer a different direction or offer a different solution, it feels kind of heart-wrenching.
Oh, man. And especially when it's somebody who's, quote-unquote, on your team who hasn't been a part of it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, well, have you thought of this? And it's like, well, where the hell have you been?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So that happens a lot, too. Well, hey, let's take one more break here and talk about our second sponsor, who is new sponsor for ArcaSpeak Podcast, and this is ArcaSnapper. And ArcaSnapper is a simple tool for creating and managing field reports. With ArcaSnapper, architects can draft reports on-site using their phone or tablet. All data is uploaded to the cloud, where the reports are available for further editing. So from drafting to sending with ArcaSnapper, architects can cut their time spent on field reports in half or more. Grow your business instead of struggling with field reports, and get a free trial on arcasnapper.com. And I believe that is a 30-day free trial. So check it out. It's a very cool product, and it does simplify the process. It lets you use a portable device to do everything that has to do with field reports and punch lists and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty sweet. So thanks, ArcaSnapper, for sponsoring the podcast. We really appreciate it.
I was thinking about the question that you had asked earlier, and Neil answered it a lot better than I did, where, you were more talking about how you took the negative and, kind of turned it into a positive and stuff. And I had a project when I was solo as well. It was in rural Florida. And I'm going to go ahead, since I'm proud of the project and proud of its outcome and everything else. It's the E.O. Wilson Biophilia Center, which was a really cool environmental education center. And so, even, like I said, being in rural Florida, the client, he'd given us a lot of directions. We had gone and we'd visit a lot of other environmental centers, and we looked at a lot of things. And there were some really cool things going on. And so, me coming off of working for another firm where we did a lot of more high-end modern stuff, I presented this high-end modern kind of environmental center, and he liked it. He had a lot of great things to say about it, but he just, you could tell that just something wasn't sitting right with him. It was kind of sort of uncomfortable to him. And he's just like, as nice as this is, it just doesn't feel right for this place. And the further that I was just like, whoa, what do you mean by that? He goes, this is more rural Florida. You think about this. This is, Florida cracker style, and it's just and yes, that is an architectural style for people who think it's just another term.
It's one of the big ones, actually. You've just never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's, and so, you started going into some things that I really wasn't thinking about. I was thinking about fitting in the program and making, just making these objects and I really started listening to him, and it ended up that essentially what I ended up doing was developing my interpretation, which was slightly more modern, but still rooted in kind of the tradition of the architecture of, rural coastal Florida. And we worked on it for months and months, and then, over the course of a couple of years, construction and stuff. And after everything was said and done, came back, and I loved how it turned out. And it ended up that I got an AIA award for it. One of the top awards for our local AIA chapter for design awards. And it was because I was thinking in one direction, and trust me, when he said, "I'm not sure it fits," it hurt. I mean, it was like a punch in the chest.
Well, yeah, you feel like you've wasted a lot of time and effort and money, and
I was invested in, the design,
right.
And I really felt like this was the right design. And, he was just like, well, I just don't feel like it's right. And so I was just like, wow, this is, the biggest form of rejection. I mean, what's wrong with this project? And the more and more we talked about it, the more and more I really started to listen to what he was saying, and what, I think what was missing from the design when I first started putting it together was that sit down and listening to him and really understanding what it was that, he was trying to say and get out of his project. I mean, and ultimately it's his project as much as we feel like it's ours because, we're the ones designing it. It's theirs.
Yeah. And,
sitting down and listening to them. And that was really the first time that I learned. And this was early in my career too. So, I was a baby when it came to sitting down and talking to clients and really understanding. And so that was a good learning tool for me, because the rejection of my initial concepts and designs wasn't really about me being a bad designer. It was me being a bad listener.
Yeah. And
so I turned it all around and said, okay, what do you really want? And I was hugely proud of the project afterwards. I mean, it was kind of my swan song from working by myself, because unfortunately the recession hit and everything else. But I mean, it was because it was a fully collaborative project between me and the client and all of the consultants. I mean, everybody took it to heart, but everybody listened. And in the end, it was what fit that place and that project, and it fit every client.
Yeah. That's
so
awesome. It's a good story, because it really shows how you really can turn a bad thing into a good thing, right? Because you were crushed, and then you turned it into, like you said, it's one of the best projects that has helped define your career. So to me, one of the best things that we can say, whether we're designers or sole proprietors or project managers or whatever position we're in, when we're dealing with either somebody else in our firm or a client, and they say something that is this feeling of this source of rejection, is just say, okay. Too many times I see people come back and say, whatever you want, when that is a lot of times the wrong answer.
Yeah.
We are, even if the client doesn't like what we've done, we have to take that and go back to the drawing boards, and we have to interpret and think and let our subconscious work on it before just reacting right out of the blue and saying, okay, whatever you want. That's not a good way to do it. But saying okay, you have to acknowledge that you heard what they said.
Right.
And that is
exactly.
a big deal, right? If you sit there quietly and you start to kind of boil, right?
And sulk.
And sulk, or yeah, however you deal with that rejection is a huge way that you're communicating, whether it's through body language or the redness in your face or whatever it is. I mean, if you simply say, okay, that is not an admittance of guilt, and it's not an admittance of I will do exactly what you say, it moves the conversation along, and it says, I've heard you, I'm going to consider this. And I think with students and with professionals, it works equally the same. If you're sitting in a jury and somebody's ripping you apart, it's just fine to say okay and not get into a battle with that person.
Right.
You can hear them, and you do not have to respond. It's your project. All right? And then same thing in the professional. You can say, okay, like, I hate this color, or I hate this material. Okay. And then we can actually start to talk about why you hate it, right? Instead of saying, okay, we won't do that. Because that might be the right material, and you can have a conversation about it. But okay is a great place to start.
And you know how hard that really is, though, is to stop, take that breath, and say okay.
You have to train yourself, and you have to practice doing it. And so start with your friends and start with the people that you're working with, and you will be able to build up.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because, I mean, you're the professional. I mean, you got to act like it, especially if you want to continue to work with them.
Yeah.
And a little bit further then, I totally agree with you that okay is that first start. And whether it's going back and just kind of going back to the drawing board or walking away, the next step is always to, okay, but now what? Now what do we do? Not in the confused kind of now what do we do kind of way, but how do we move the project forward? What is the best thing for you? What is that okay, so you don't like that color. What do you like? And then start to kind of pull more and more information out of them to really kind of start to understand it. Because they may hate something, and a lot of times I worked with a principal who was picking some colors for the school, and we came up and we did a bunch of color boards beforehand. And we were presenting it to her, and these were kind of rooted in the study of color and how it affects the psyche, especially in grade schools, kids, and things like that. And so we had like this very calming kind of purple. It wasn't more lavender than anything else, but
calming
she was
purple.
just like, absolutely no purple. And we're like, and I mean, she was so...
Oh, man, we hear this a lot.
She was so upset about presenting this purple to her.
The superintendent hates green.
And so we were like, and so what did we do? We were like, okay. Why?
Yeah, why?
Well,
because I had this couch once, and
actually, here you want to know the truth of it. The truth is that she was a Green Bay Packer fan, and she absolutely hates the Minnesota Vikings, which are purple.
And that's what everybody thinks of when they see purple, right?
And that is what she thought of.
And so therefore everyone. Yeah.
And therefore everyone.
Projecting.
We
see it all the time.
And isn't that what we were talking about? Is that even though there are some personal differences or reasons why they don't want to do something, it's dealing with their particulars.
Yep.
But it was pretty funny that they did it. And so, to be quite honest with you, I think that when we took her input of no purple and went back to the drawing board and kind of pulled some other things, that actually, in the end of the day, I actually think it made it better, because even though we had a more subdued color palette, it was a really nice, sophisticated color palette that we'd never actually done before.
But also, you listened to her. You didn't put a color on it that she hated, and therefore she no longer owned the project because she hated it so bad. Right?
Right.
You're putting that listening into action.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Guys, one of the things I wanted to bring up here towards the end is one of the challenges of being rejected is or one of the, it's not a challenge, but it's a challenge in trying hard, especially as a sole proprietor, to not be rejected. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of time and effort put into a design, and you may spend a lot of time figuring out maybe colors, maybe different design ideas, or you're just searching for images to back up, or you're trying to get just the right view, or build the model, or draw up something. And there's so much time in generating the drawings that we need to present a project. That could be 3D, 2D, whatever it is. But there's so much time and effort put into that. And then oftentimes there's very little time spent in discussing it. And so you may present something and it's like, no, I don't like that over here. And it's like, whoa, I just spent like 2 hours generating this or drawing this, and they just blew it off in like 5 seconds. And that can hurt, right? I mean, it not only can hurt just emotionally, but it can also hurt in that, okay, wait a minute, I just wasted 2 hours of time. I'm just throwing numbers here, but I've wasted all this time and effort. And so as a sole proprietor, one of the things I try and do really hard is listen very carefully to what they want, and try and ask leading questions during the meetings that you do have, so that the next time you're presenting a design, that you minimize the effort that goes into generating something, so that if it is rejected, you haven't wasted your time. And that sometimes goes into the thinking of, what am I going to present to them? What are my materials that I'm going to show, or drawings that I'm going to produce to show this example or this design concept? And so I think it's important to, whether you're on a team of people or just as a sole proprietor like myself, consider, okay, what's going to show the minimal amount of work I need to do to show a concept? Because if it's just tossed, I don't want to put a whole lot of effort into it because I can't afford it. I'm not getting paid to do all that.
You have to anticipate, right? Yeah.
You do. And I think that's what I meant by the challenge in being rejected, is that it's okay to be rejected. It's okay. But you got to be very, conscious of
Calculated
thinking about...
risk.
Calculate. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. You calculate out, okay, here's a concept, or here's this other concept, and here's another concept. How much time can I put into each one of these so that you're not wasting your time? And that goes for professionals and also students, because you may want to explore time in school. Now, you're not necessarily getting paid in school, but it's important. You have to manage your time when you're in school. And so managing your time becomes the same sort of thing professionally or not. And so I just wanted to bring that up, because I think that it's important to understand it may be even okay to throw some things out there, because I've done this before too, where you show people different examples of things and you want to direct them in a way so that they choose the one you want. And so, it's a little bit, that's kind of a little off topic, but I mean, you can go in that direction to try and minimize and calculate your rejections so that you can get to where you want to get to.
I've got 2 tips for this. Okay. The first one is less time between checkpoints, right? So when you are showing or involving the client, more is better, even if it's less work in between. And a lot of times when I present something to a client, especially early on, I might be drawing it in CAD or Revit or whatever, but I am going to print it out and trace it by hand and send them that version. Why? Yeah. Because it doesn't look so finished. So it doesn't look like it's done. Because a lot of times a client will look at it and say, that's done and I had nothing to do with this, therefore I will just simply reject it on the premise. And maybe they're not even thinking that, but maybe that's just, a lot of times that just happens because they don't feel like they were a part of it. And so the looser the better. As soon as we start getting into 3D, I'm already thinking materials. I'm thinking wall thicknesses and stuff. But when I send it to them, it's black and white.
Exactly.
And it's got sketchy lines on it. I mean, it's got to be vague in those early stages because you want them to concentrate on form, not materials. I don't want you to focus on the material or the color. I want you to focus on, are we solving the problems? The second tip is, when you start talking about materials and things like that, don't tape them to a board and make it a formal presentation. Bring loose samples and put them on the table and say, what about this? And let's slide this one over here and see how these ones look together. Even if you've already done this in your own office, even if you've already decided that these things go really well together, do it in front of them with them. And it makes a huge impact. It gets you so much farther, and it gets you away from that potential rejection just because they had nothing to do with it. So, couple tips.
Those are awesome.
Yeah. I was thinking that this would have been great advice for us when we were in school.
Oh, man. Yeah, too much too soon, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're always guilty of that.
You know, I mean, we try to like flood them in, you know, we
look how much work I did.
These things.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, it's to impress them by sheer number, by the volume of the work. And it's not the quality of the work, it's the volume of the work. The little steps between, okay, so I've got a presentation, you know, say you're in school and you've got a presentation in 2 weeks. Have that conversation with your professor every couple of days. Try to pull out more information from them. I mean, the thing about it is that they're there to help you get better and to improve what you're supposed to be learning. I mean,
you're paying for it. Yeah.
You're paying for it, so you should get exactly what you want out of it, which is, we talked about this in the last one. It's the, you know, make it what you want. Well, make the class what you want. Push yourself to really ask the questions, but it's trying to pull out all of those little nuances and all those little things that can make the project better. That if you've spent 2 weeks of just getting sheer volume of stuff, but not stopping to listen to what you're really supposed to be doing, you're going to get annihilated in your crits. But if you can stop and ask those questions and develop it so that that not only you feel comfortable with it, but it's something that you've had, you know, these mini critiques, these mini reviews that, you know, really kind of
desk crits.
Yeah, that make you understand it. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Even if you think it sounds stupid that you're asking the question, it's more stupid to not ask the question. Get the input. Find out what they want. I mean, it was like the project example that I used as an example of, I went one direction, they wanted to go another direction. You know, when I finally learned to stop and listen to them, it became a project that not only I was proud of, but they were proud of.
Yeah, you dig your heels in, and what happens? Pain and agony.
Pain and agony.
Rejection.
Exactly.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, I think we've given everybody lots to think about. So if you've got any tips on how to handle rejection or avoid it in the first place,
or talk about how you've been rejected.
Yes, absolutely. Please
stories.
Add your comments. Go to the website, archispeakpodcast.com, and leave your comments.
Yeah, because the only way that we can get better is by getting rejected every once in a great while.
It does. I think it does push us forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or if you've got a really good tale to tell, call the Archispeak podcast line at 415-484-8496. Show us some love. We haven't gotten any calls in a while, and maybe we'll even put you on the show. Maybe that's why nobody calls. They're afraid.
Show us how rejection has been good for you.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear that, because I really feel like this is a topic that, like you said, Cormac, students, we should have heard this, when we were starting. It would have been awesome. But I feel like it's something that we just need to talk more about.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Okay, everyone. Stay subscribed, and thanks for listening.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
Cause for my kind of luck, I'll be up on the block in front of all of my friends. This is what you get. This is what you get. This is a schedule. This is a set. It's unpredictable lest you forget. If you blow, you can bet. I know, I know, I know. This is what you get. This is a schedule. This is a set. It's unpredictable lest you forget. If you blow, you can bet. I know, I know, I know. Top to the basement. Blow by blow, kinds of steel. Very real, very rock, but it's still very rock body. Paper, scissors, system, breach, deep, open the reach, past the synapse. Right jump, stump pages after still the rages and new tool and a toy book. And this is what you get. This is what you get. This is a schedule. This is a set. It's unpredictable lest you forget. If you blow, you can bet. I know, I know, I know. This is what you get.